Have you ever looked back on a moment and realized they were never really there for me? Maybe it was a friend, a child, a partner. Maybe you gave so much of your heart, your time, your care, only to feel invisible when it mattered most. If you've felt that, I want you to know, you're not alone. At this stage in life, when the hair has turned silver and the days feel quieter, you begin to see things with a clarity you never had in your 30s or 40s. It's like your soul starts speaking louder than the world. And one of the first truths it whispers is this: you don't have to chase people to prove your worth. So let's talk about something most people don't want to face: rejection. It stings, especially when it comes from people we've invested our hearts in. A child who pulls away, a partner who emotionally checks out, friends who no longer call. That quiet feeling of being replaced or ignored can be painful, even unbearable at times. But here's the thing: rejection is not always about you. It's not always your fault. Sometimes it's simply life redirecting your path. The more you resist rejection, the more it controls you. But the moment you accept it, not with bitterness but with wisdom, that's the moment you start to reclaim your peace. Acceptance isn't weakness. It's strength. It's looking at someone who walked away and saying, "I wish you well, but I'll be just fine without you." There's a certain power in letting go. And I don't mean giving up. I mean loosening your grip on what no longer serves your soul. We were taught from a young age to hold on tightly to people, to traditions, to identities. But aging teaches us something different. It teaches us to release. And what a freeing thing it is. You see, when you let go of someone who doesn't love you the way you deserve, you're not losing, you're clearing space. Space for peace. Space for self-respect. Space for the right connections to enter your life. And don't let anyone tell you it's too late. At 60, 70, even 80, you're still growing. You're still evolving. You still matter. And while we're being honest, let's talk about something else: being true to yourself. There comes a time when pretending becomes too heavy to carry, when trying to be what others expect is no longer worth the energy. If someone asks you to shrink who you are to fit their comfort, that's not love, that's control. And you, my friend, are too wise for that now. Speak your truth, even if your voice trembles. Say what you feel, kindly but clearly. Whether it's "I need space," or "I deserve more," or "No, I will not tolerate that anymore." This isn't about being aggressive. It's about honoring your inner compass. You've lived long enough to know what's right for you. People may not always like it when you start standing in your truth, but you'll feel lighter, freer, more at peace. There's a joy that comes when you stop apologizing for being real. And truthfully, at this stage, why live any other way? Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt the tension of holding in your feelings just to keep the peace? You smile when you want to cry. You nod when you want to scream. You say, "I'm fine," when you're anything but. That kind of silence can wear a person down over the years. But not anymore. Now is the time to stop hiding your feelings to protect people who don't protect yours. And here's something else that comes with age: the deep understanding that not everything requires your energy. You no longer need to explain yourself to everyone. You don't have to be available to everyone. And you certainly don't have to chase anyone. People will come and go. That's just how life works. Some will stay, some will drift, and some will slam the door without warning. Let them. Let them roam. Let them figure themselves out. Your job is not to cling. Your job is to stand strong in who you are, regardless of who stays or goes. And if someone chooses something or someone else over you, don't see it as a failure. See it as a favor. Because anyone who doesn't recognize your worth isn't meant to be in the next chapter of your life. You don't need half love. You don't need lukewarm loyalty. You need real. And real people don't walk away when it gets inconvenient. So let's take a breath together. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine what it would feel like to no longer chase, explain, or justify. Imagine waking up and knowing that even if no one calls, even if no one checks in, you are still enough. You are still worthy. You are still whole. And yes, I know. It's easier said than done, especially when the people you love deeply, family, friends, even your own children, seem to drift further and further away. But you're not powerless. In fact, you've never been more powerful, because now you see what matters. You see what doesn't. And you finally get to choose how you live the rest of your life. It starts with letting go, with acceptance. Not just of what's happened, but of what's no longer in your control. You don't have to keep reopening old wounds just to prove you were hurt. You were, and you survived. That's enough. You don't have to beg people to care. You don't have to remind anyone of your value. The right people will see it. The wrong ones won't. It's not your job to teach someone how to love you. It's your job to love yourself enough to walk away when they don't. So, if you've been holding on to someone who already let go of you, this is your permission to release them. Not with hatred, not with resentment, but with peace. Because your peace matters. Your joy matters. You matter. Even now. Especially now. You have a life to live. Your life. Not a life spent waiting for others to notice you. Not a life spent proving your worth to those who overlooked you. But a life spent in truth, in peace, and in freedom. And that's where it all begins. Now, once you start letting go of who or what no longer fits in your life, something powerful happens. You start to hear yourself again. You reconnect with the person you were before the noise, before the expectations, before the disappointments. And you realize something. Your own voice, your own truth, has been waiting patiently all these years to be heard. This is why being true to yourself is not just an idea. It's a necessity. After 60, you don't have time for pretending. You've earned the right to be authentic. You've lived through heartbreak, raised families, maybe buried people you loved, and worked hard to survive seasons others couldn't even imagine. You've carried so much, and now it's your turn to put some of that burden down. Being true to yourself means asking the hard questions. What do I really want in this chapter of life? Who am I when I'm not performing for others? Where do I feel most like me? Sometimes the answers surprise you. Maybe you realize you've been the strong one for so long that you forgot how to ask for help. Or maybe you've been the peacekeeper in the family even though it drained you. Maybe you've always said yes when your soul was begging you to say no. It's okay to change that. It's okay to redefine yourself at 65 or 75 or 85. People will have opinions, they always do. But guess what? You're not living their life. You're living yours. And part of being true to yourself is learning to respect your own boundaries and to respect the boundaries of others too. That brings us to something many seniors struggle with quietly: giving people space. Whether it's your adult children, your friends, or even your partner, sometimes people need space. Not because they don't love you, not because you're not important, but because they're human and they're on their own journeys too. It can be hard when your son doesn't call every Sunday anymore, or when your daughter-in-law seems distant, or when the grandkids are more interested in TikTok than in visiting grandma. It hurts, and it's okay to admit that. But it's also okay to let them go and grow. Respecting other people's space doesn't mean cutting them off. It means loosening your emotional grip. It means allowing people to come and go without taking it as a reflection of your worth. You've loved them well. You've done your part. And now your peace does not depend on their presence. Let them roam. Let them figure themselves out. Let them find their way. What's meant for you won't stay away from you forever. And what isn't meant for you will keep slipping through your fingers, no matter how tightly you try to hold on. When you stop chasing people, something amazing happens. The right ones start finding you. The kind of people who love you for who you are, not what you can do for them. The kind of relationships where you don't have to beg for time, attention, or love. That's the kind of peace that feels like home. But to get there, you have to get comfortable with not knowing. You have to let go of the need to control every outcome, every conversation, every connection. And that's not easy, especially if you've been a caretaker your whole life. If you've always been the glue in your family or the rock everyone leaned on, let me remind you, you don't always have to be strong. You don't have to have all the answers. You're allowed to step back. You're allowed to rest. You're allowed to be a human being, not just someone else's emotional support system. And while you can't always control what others do, you can control how you respond. You can decide what kind of energy you bring into each day. That's where attitude comes in. Let's be honest, life throws a lot at us. Illness, loneliness, financial stress, the loss of people we love. You can't avoid the storms, but you can choose how you walk through them. You can choose to complain or to be grateful. You can choose to wallow or to rise. You can choose bitterness or peace. That doesn't mean ignoring your pain. No, you're allowed to cry, to grieve, to be angry, but you don't have to unpack and live there forever. You don't have to let one chapter define the rest of your story. There's something incredibly liberating about taking ownership of your attitude. It means you're no longer at the mercy of what other people say or do. You become the thermostat, not the thermometer. You set the tone. You decide the atmosphere. You create the mood in your life, one thought, one choice, one moment at a time. You don't need to fix every situation. You don't need to rescue every person. You don't need to chase peace. You are the peace. You carry it inside you. And yes, some days it's going to feel hard. Some mornings you'll wake up and feel like you're back at square one. That's normal. You're not failing. You're human. What matters is that you keep showing up, that you keep choosing healing over hurt, peace over panic, growth over grief. And let me tell you, there's so much still waiting for you. You are not done. You're not invisible. You're not too old. Your wisdom, your experience, your voice, it all matters. And the world still needs it. But the world will only hear it if you keep going. If you keep showing up for yourself. If you keep letting go of what's holding you back and making room for what wants to bloom. You've already come so far. Through heartbreak, through loss, through silent battles no one ever saw. And yet, here you are. Still breathing, still standing, still learning. That's strength. That's grace. That's resilience. The next time you feel overlooked, remember this. You are not here to be tolerated. You are here to be treasured. And you don't need to earn that by doing more, giving more, or proving more. You've already done enough. What you need now is peace. And that peace starts the moment you stop needing others to validate your worth. The moment you realize you are already enough, just as you are. That's the truth I hope you carry with you, not just today, but every day forward. Even with all the wisdom that comes with age, life still tests us. Sometimes it's in the form of silence from someone you love. Sometimes it's watching people drift out of your life, not with a bang, but with a slow, painful fade. Other times, it's feeling like the world is moving on without you. But let me remind you of something very simple and very powerful. Just because things are quiet doesn't mean your life is over. It means you're being called inward. You're being invited to grow in new ways. And growth at this age? It doesn't always look like hustle or noise. Sometimes it looks like peace, stillness, finally feeling safe enough to stop chasing and just be. But don't confuse peace with giving up. You're not giving up. You're giving yourself permission to live in alignment, to stop fighting battles that don't deserve your energy, to stop proving yourself to people who never took the time to see you. That's where persistence comes in, not persistence in chasing approval, but in protecting your joy, in standing up for your inner calm, in refusing to let bitterness take root. So many people think persistence is about pushing through pain no matter what. But that's not strength. Strength is knowing when to walk away, when to rest, when to redirect, and when to rise, no matter how many times you've fallen before. You've heard the old saying, fall down 7 times, get up 8. But what they don't always tell you is this: getting back up doesn't always look like it did in your youth. These days, getting up might mean saying, I forgive you, but I won't let you back in. It might mean waking up with a sore back, but still choosing to make your morning coffee and sit with gratitude. It might mean putting on your shoes and going for a walk, even if you're moving slower than before. That's still rising. That's still getting up. You see, ease is a greater threat than hardship ever was. When life is too easy, we stop growing. We stop reaching. We stop discovering who we are. It's in the struggle, the discomfort, the loss, the rejection, that we develop true character. And you, my friend, have character carved out of stone. You didn't get this far without earning every wrinkle, every gray hair, every quiet moment of clarity. When you look at people like Denzel Washington, Taraji Henson, or Kerry Washington, what do they all have in common? Yes, they're successful. Yes, they're respected. But what really sets them apart is their persistence. They didn't get where they are because life was easy. They got there because they didn't stop. And you don't have to be on a stage or a movie screen to live with that same grit. Your stage is your life. Your audience is your heart. And your performance? It's how you show up for yourself every single day, even when nobody else sees it. So how do you persist in this season of life? First, by remembering that your value does not fade with time. It deepens. It matures. You are not who you were at 30, and that's a blessing. You've lived. You've learned. You've let go. You've survived things others would crumble under. That's persistence. That's power. Second, by refusing to let loneliness define you. Yes, it gets quieter. Yes, fewer people may call or visit. But that does not mean your life is empty. Fill your space with things that bring you joy. Music, books, walks in nature, painting, talking to neighbors, volunteering, praying, meditating, breathing deeply. Being alive is an act of defiance in a world that tries to forget its elders. Your joy is resistance. Your peace is rebellion. And finally, by trusting that you're not too late for anything meaningful. Not too late for healing. Not too late for laughter. Not too late for love. Love may not look the way it did in your 20s, but it can be deeper, purer, more peaceful. And it begins with the love you offer yourself. You may be wondering, how do I even start over at this point in my life? And I want to say gently, you don't have to start over. You just have to keep going, step by step, day by day. Trusting that each small act of self-respect, of self-care, of honesty is moving you forward. No, it's not easy. But you already know that. And if it were easy, everybody would be doing it. If it were easy, there'd be no great examples to look up to. No stories of triumph. No moments of transformation. But it's because it's hard that it matters. What you do in this chapter is not less important because you're older. It might be the most important part of your legacy. How you handle this season, how you handle rejection, how you handle being unloved, how you handle being alone, that speaks louder than all your earlier years combined. When people talk about you later, they may not remember what job you had or what car you drove, but they will remember how you carried yourself. Whether you chose bitterness or grace, whether you stayed angry or let it go, whether you shut down or kept shining. So keep shining, even if it's quiet, even if no one notices right away. Shine anyway. Shine because it's who you are, because the world needs your light, your story, your wisdom. Keep walking. Keep writing the next page. Keep saying yes to yourself over and over again. Because that's how real change happens. Not with one grand moment, but with small, quiet acts of courage. And as you do that, don't forget to look around and celebrate how far you've come. Not everyone gets this far. Not everyone makes it through the losses, the changes, the heartbreaks. But you did, and you're still here. That alone is something to honor. So if today is a hard day, let it be hard. But don't give up. If today is a quiet day, let it be peaceful. And if today is a good day, soak it in. Smile at it. Be thankful for it. Because every single one of these days is part of your masterpiece. And if you've made it to this moment in the video, I want to thank you. Not just for watching, but for showing up. For choosing to keep growing. For choosing to keep going. Now, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Have you ever had to let someone go? How did you find peace? What helped you keep moving forward when things felt heavy? Your story might be the encouragement someone else needs today. If this message touched your heart, please give the video a like. It helps more people see it. And don't forget to subscribe to Strong Elderly Life for more uplifting, honest, and empowering content made just for you. Because here, we believe something very simple. Life doesn't end after 60. In many ways, it's just beginning. So here's to you, your growth, your healing, your truth, your peace. Here's to living your best life at any age.